They're finally here, the Raceland Coilovers for the second generation Scion TC. I've been driving on these for about a week, so I feel I can now give an informed installation and initial review of the coilovers. The box shown in this picture is the box that the coilovers came in. They came very well packaged. Each one is wrapped in plastic in an individual box, and each of the 4 boxes were then placed in one large box. My initial impression of the Raceland coilovers. I was extremely impressed by the physical quality of the coilovers. For such a low price, almost a third of other coilovers for the TC2, I was expecting something that looked like it was constructed by a 14-year-old in a shop glass. To my surprise, they appear to be of very high quality. All of the welds are very nice, the powder coating is flawless, and everything fits together and moves as it should. This picture shows the components that are included in the package. The kit includes replacement struts with built-in coil sleeves for the front, and a coil sleeve matched with aggressive dampened shocks for the rear. The installation of the front coilovers was very straightforward. You simply remove your factory struts and replace the factory top hat with your new Raceland front coils. Then simply reinstall the coils as if they were your factory struts. One recommendation that I do have is to lower the sleeves all the way to the bottom for installation. This will make it much easier to bolt the top hat to the new Raceland coils. Here's some pictures of the front directly after the installation. The Raceland coilovers are lowered all the way. They have not been driven on yet, so they will be slightly lower once they've moved. For the rears, the Raceland shock is a very easy install. It is a direct replacement of the factory shock. Just unbolt the shock and rebolt the Raceland shock where your old one was. After I pulled out my old springs, I put the adjustable sleeve, lowered all the way for ease of installation, on the control arm and wedged the new Raceland spring in there. So far, the Raceland coilovers appear to be performing very well. Honestly, I was a little concerned with how they were going to perform because I've heard horror stories before, but I was very pleasantly surprised. I have ran stock suspension, Teen H-Techs, Teen S-Techs, and now Raceland coilovers. And the Raceland by far take the cake on performance out of the 4. Turns feel a lot stiffer and more controllable, and all around the car feels more predictable, which is a huge plus. The ride quality is slightly better than expected. It doesn't ride like a Cadillac, but it is a little better than I've had on my other setups. The coilovers are a little less harsh over bumps and on not great roads compared to both lowering springs. When you lower your car, you expect to have reduced ride quality. Racelands don't feel like you're riding on a cloud, but they're acceptable, and I'll take that. There are 2 things that I don't love about the Racelands though. My first complaint is that the rear coil sleeves are a pain to adjust. They are positioned inside the control arm, which means you have to take the spring out to adjust the sleeve. On the plus side, I did find a shortcut to doing this. Instead of taking everything apart, all you have to do is take off the sway bar end link from the bottom of the control arm and push down hard on the control arm. This will give you enough wiggle room to get the spring out so you can adjust the sleeve. With this method, it only takes no more than 15 minutes to adjust. This picture is of the adjustment sleeve on the bottom of the control arm. My second complaint is that the provided spacer for the shocks is just not long enough. With just the provided spacer, there is a very small amount of wiggle room for the shocks, and this creates a very slight rattle when you go over bumps. This was easily fixed by buying a longer spacer at Ace Hardware for $3 a spacer. They are 1/2 inch inner diameter and 1 inch long. Here's a picture of the provided spacer compared to the spacers I picked up at Ace Hardware. Now, here's the important thing for most of you. Here's the stance on the Raceland coilovers dropped all the way after settling for 3 days. The wheel fitment is 18 by 9.5 plus 25 stretched on 225s. The stretch of the tire helps the rear tire tuck in very slightly behind the fender, which I loved, and the front is about a 1/2 inch of room all the way around the wheel so it can turn. Very convenient for just dropping them all the way and not adjusting anything. Here's my stance now after installing my new wheels, adjusting my coils, and waiting 4 days for them to settle. The fronts are dropped all the way around, and the rears dropped a little bit more than 3/4. The wheel fitment is 19 by 9.5 plus 20 on 245s. There's very little stretch. There's about a 1/4 inch all the way around the front and rear, and I couldn't be happier.